The Girl in the Spider's Web is directed by Fede Alvarez, and this film serves as sort of a soft reboot to the 2011 David Fincher film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. This movie once again follows Elizabeth Salander as she discovers a plot to acquire access to nuclear weapons, as well as some figures from her past looking to exact their revenge. I do not envy the person who has to follow up David Fincher. However, so far Fede Alvarez has really impressed me with both of the feature films in his filmography, being of course Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, two movies that I really do quite enjoy. And David Fincher isn't the only component of the previous film to not make a return in this movie. Rooney Mara as well as Daniel Craig are not in this film. So instead we have Claire Foy who is taking up the mantle, which initially I was excited for. I thought she was terrific in First Man and especially good in Unsane. And I do think those two components, being Fede Alvarez and Claire Foy, those are the two main highlights of this film. And even though I do prefer Rooney Mara's performance by a pretty large margin, I do think that Claire Foy does a pretty respectable job. However, I can't speak to how her performance in this film stacks up against the original Swedish film because unfortunately I have not seen those movies. And in addition to that, I do think that Alvarez did a nice job with the direction of this film. This movie is really excellently shot. Unfortunately, beyond that, I didn't particularly care for any other aspect of this film. In fact, The Girl in the Spider's Web is one of the most instantly forgettable and disposable movies that I've seen all year. Something that I love about the Fincher film is the atmosphere that it is able to capture. That movie feels cold and it feels dirty. And I don't think that this movie is able to capture that. This film feels like a neutered version of what we've already seen. And I'm honestly surprised that this movie has the rating that it has, which is rated R. This film feels like a hardened, more edgy PG-13. This film was distributed by MGM, which is the same production company that produces another espionage series, of course being James Bond. And one of the most glaring issues that I have with this film is that it does not feel like it belongs in this series. It feels like it belongs in the James Bond films. I would not be surprised at all if this film's screenplay originally started as a James Bond script. And that's because there are so many similarities to this film and previous James Bond movies. The fact that this movie has a very familial angle to it, just like we saw in the last James Bond movie, Spectre. This film is also about someone trying to stop someone else from gaining access to nuclear weapons, something that we've seen in so many James Bond movies. This movie also features a scene where someone is driving a vehicle over ice, something that we've seen in quite possibly the worst James Bond movie, Die Another Day. And I know that the Fincher film has this as well, but this movie's opening title sequence is very reminiscent of a James Bond opening title sequence. Do you guys see what I'm saying? The Elizabeth Salander films are not James Bond movies. So the fact that this film, if you swapped out these two characters, it could pretty easily be a James Bond film, and that's not really a good thing at all. Although The Girl in the Spider's Web is well shot and it does feature a pretty strong performance from Claire Foy, ultimately this film feels so sanitized and trite that it loses what made this series so beloved in the first place, and it exchanges that for big action set pieces and high-tech weapons. So did you guys see The Girl in the Spider's Web? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hoped you liked today's video, and if you did, you can click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. And guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.